James.
Hi, everybody. I'm Walter, and I'm the Dutch mentor. Welcome back to the S.M.A.R.T Performance Podcast, where S stands for self-care, M for mindful growth, A for adaptive problem solving, R for rhythmic operation, T, of course, for that very important thriving community, and of course, P for performance. Today, we're going to have another conversation about AI. Is it, oh my God, another conversation about AI? But one thing that we have not really addressed and to any significance, but it is critically important. So AI has a role to play in every facet of our lives. But also we need to become more aware of the downstream impacts of AI, both positive and negative. How can we mitigate, how we can respond? And I found the right guy for this from Overlang Ventures. James Lang is going to dive into that particular topic. So again, stick with us for the next 15 minutes, action-packed, some key takeaways. And James, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Walter. This is a real treat. So, gosh, there's so much to cover, but I'll try to make it really compact for you. So, started out as a freelance writer, then got into SEO marketing because, we all know that the key to moving up in the world is figuring out why you're being asked to do something, not just how to do it. So, just kind of rinsed and repeat that learn and earn cycle. Made my way into a marketing agency that was kind of a loosely related with Disney out in Orange County, and then ended up working with a personal injury marketing firm, so dealing with personal injury lawyers, biggest egos in the world. They have to have their name everywhere. They have to be first, and so did that for a while, and then we got acquired. The entire agency was brought in-house to a med tech firm that was focused on treating ED and men's health issues without chemicals, without pills, using the body's natural ability to repair with neurogenesis and angiogenesis. So from there, went in and started out on the marketing side of the house, eventually moved into more of a management role, exited 2 years ago as the chief operating officer. So really amazing experience. And then the last 2 years, I've been focused on my mental and physical health. That was kind of a big shift of like kind of restoring and reviving. And then, have the opportunity now to build this amazing company with my friends who I have a deep sense of respect, but also trust. And really our goal right now is how do we become every business owner's best friend?
Listen, that sounds like a very interesting journey. I'm very happy that you're willing to call out your mental and physical wellness, because that's something that is too often overlooked, and it's really the foundation of who we are. We can't be brilliant innovators unless our foundation is rock solid. And there's nothing wrong by taking a step back and say, listen, I need to regroup and reset. And of course, in today's world, we have options, we have choices, and AI is opening up a whole new world to many of us. Take me a little bit. So again, take me on a little bit of a journey on how you see AI in today's world, but really focus on the fact is that the impact of AI on the downside of things, what we should be taking into consideration, and how you discovered that piece of the puzzle.
Yeah. So, we were talking before the podcast that, when we built Overlang Venture Partners, the idea was to build this broad consultancy. So let's find a way to offer compliance, marketing, operations, financial advice, all the things that go into making a business successful, that maybe just because you're really good at your craft or your skill set doesn't mean that you're a great operator or a business owner as you scale through those different phases. So we've had to respond, though, to the market because there's such a focus on AI right now. And anybody who claims to be an AI expert is full of it. It's changing so quickly. Every week it feels like there's another model, there's another iteration. There was the move of AI from algorithmic AI, which was very fundamentally based on equations, and then now shifting to where the AI is writing its own algorithms and iterating and growing in and of itself. So AI is an amazing tool. It's a force multiplier, but it's extremely dangerous if you use it in ways that if you outsource your thinking, if you outsource your moral compass, if you outsource your sense of direction as an organization, as an individual, if you hand that to AI and say, I'm too lazy to do that anymore, I can just outsource it, you're setting yourself up for disaster. So one of the things that we spend a lot of time talking to business owners about and their teams is, where does AI really make sense? Where does it actually help? And more importantly, where could it hurt? Because what happens in these companies is when they pull AI into their business, a lot of times what they're doing is they're pulling something off the shelf that was not designed for their use case, was not designed to match how their company operates and their systems and processes. So what we do, and where we really stepped back, was we started to run into these issues where we were building these systems for our partners, and the problem was they were dying from success, because as you scale up and increase the traffic and the throughput in all of these AI solutions, all of a sudden what you have is these incredible costs of compute, of other issues that you just, if you're not thinking about them ahead of time, you're going to have some infrastructure problems where tool A doesn't work with tool B. And now we're in a place for business owners where if you bought off the shelf solution A and then you plugged it in with off the shelf solution B and then C, D, and E, all those things, the puzzle pieces used to fit together. But now the pace of innovation in AI is going so quickly that it used to be for 10 years, it would take for, a market to go from something that was very innovative and unique and everybody kind of had their area and they were comfortable with their area, to where there was this, land and expand attitude of, okay, we have your business doing this, but we want to do this, this, and this too. We want to replace all those other tools. Well, we've seen that in the last year, what normally took 10 years. Now all these companies are suddenly saying, look, you use us for this service, but we notice you have us plugged into this other program over here. We don't really like that. We're going to end compatibility. We're going to disable your ability to connect, and we want you to buy that service from us too. So everything goes in under one suite or one umbrella. And it's really frustrating because a lot of these early adopters, they're running into these challenges where they spent all this money. They thought they were forward thinking. They thought they were ahead of the curve. And now they're basically being slapped around by their platform providers. So we really focus on how do you take ownership of your AI? Because just like you can outsource your thinking to AI, and that's really dangerous, when you build your foundation of your technology on somebody else's infrastructure that you don't own, you're captive to them. You can wake up one day and suddenly discover that what you expected to cost X, Y, and Z suddenly costs far more. And how do you evolve? How do you pivot to get away from that if you don't want to pay that fee, or if you don't find the value at that price point? So, excuse me. So basically, at the end of the day, forgive me for 1 second. Apologies.
Yeah.
Gotta love it when swallowing it goes down the wrong pipe. But anyways, thanks for bearing with me. But the problem is you have this environment where business owners, companies, especially the small and medium sized, they're giving so much power without realizing it to these large tech AI plays that are not necessarily the most stable business models. You look at OpenAI right now, what they're going through. They have this incredible technology. They're kind of the market leader, but at the same time, they're running out of funding, even though they've raised all this money. And that effort to build out their own infrastructure, which was designed to allow them to get away from having to pay the Microsoft Azures of the world for all that compute, all of a sudden, that gamble that they made, that infrastructure play is not working for them. They're not having the level of success they expected with the build out, which means that all of a sudden they've invested all this money in infrastructure. The infrastructure is not delivering on what they expected, which now means they're going to have incredibly high costs of operating with Microsoft Azure, especially with Microsoft's investment. They invested mostly in credits for their Azure service. So, instead of them handing money to OpenAI, they handed them credits or coupons, for lack of a better term. And now those credits are starting to run out, and they're going to have to start paying for that overhead, and they don't have the money.
Yeah.
So there's a real question. I go back to that main point of, do you know what your tools actually will cost you in the future? Did you build on something and invest all that time into something that's not sustainable? And that's a real problem for business owners right now. So again, just to wrap it up, we really focus on giving business owners that ownership over their AI infrastructure.
Yeah. So it's very interesting. Thank you for explaining that. And it certainly is something that people need to keep in mind, that 70 to 80% of the things we say we're going to do, we never do, or it never comes to fruition. I think we're repeating history to some extent in the 90s, when we also got, especially in healthcare, where technological advances were made leaps and bounds. But the problem is we brought in 100 or 200 different vendors with 200 different languages, real language. None of them were integrated. Really not advancing, sharing of knowledge about a patient that would advance, quality outcomes. And we're seeing this again happening, right? Is that people buying into the first, newest, latest, and greatest, shining little toy in AI, only to find out in a month or 2 or 6 months or 12 months they're running out of money and they went out of business or they get bought by somebody else. So these are the negative downstreams impacts that you really, really have to keep in mind. It is still critically important to have an overarching architecture or a really strategy session, understanding on how things are going to be working together and who can be a reliable partner in going into the future. I love what you said that an AI expert. Well, it's an AI expert of yesterday, right? Because
Right.
it's so rapidly evolving that you can become an expert of today, but not really of tomorrow. So with that said, right? So because we want to keep this actionable. So over the next 5 minutes, I would love you to give actionable things that people can do who are listening to this. So that could be a leader that's on middle management or a leader on a more executive level. What is it they should be doing as they after this podcast, that they can look inward into the organization to assess their own vulnerabilities?
Yeah, so what you have to start with is understanding what is your tech stack and what is your tech debt. So if you understand what tools you use, what systems are being tapped whenever you make a request to do something or take care of that thing that you have to do every day or every week or every month, when you understand what the touch points are to get those things accomplished, then you understand where your vulnerabilities are. Because if this one company over here has a problem, it's going to cause an issue where that chain of resources no longer work the way you designed it to. So understand on paper, and I'm a big believer in if it's not on paper, it doesn't exist. So, get it out of your head, get it onto paper, understand what your infrastructure looks like, understand what your processes look like, understand also who's responsible, not just in terms of technology, but in terms of stakeholders, who in your organization is the person or team that's actually going to be responsible for these various aspects of all of these things that we just kind of take for granted every day because it seems so easy. We push a button and all these things happen. I think also business owners and managers need to become way more comfortable with prompting. And, it used to be that I would get up in the morning, I'd open up Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, and get to work and start inputting data, building out documentation, whatever the case may be. Now I'm spending probably 80 to 90% of my day talking to AI, prompting and saying, I need you to do this, and then looking at it with a skeptical eye and providing feedback and saying, this is great, but you need to do this better. So if you look at AI specifically, whatever tool you're using, as an ass kissing employee, right? It's somebody that's going to give you whatever you want, whatever you believe. It's going to try to reinforce that because it wants to please you and it wants to get ahead, even though you can't technically give AI a title or a promotion. AI is created in our image. And so the same psychological factors that motivate human beings oftentimes are the same things that motivate AI. So I like to go after my prompting in a way that, think of AI, especially like the chat GPTs of the world. It's a blank slate. So what you start out with is saying, what are you? So I might say, you're a marketing expert with a deep level of experience in riparian property rights, which is some arcane area of the law that I've had to deal with in some of my marketing efforts with one of our clients. And so I'll start with saying, you're an expert on this and you have a deep level of experience doing marketing, writing content, creating marketing strategies, whatever the case may be. And then you explain exactly what you need from the AI. So I want you to produce a blog article that covers these points and then give them a vision of what it looks like when they turn this in. So it needs to be this many words. It needs to cover these keywords. It needs to avoid this area, but also go in depth in this area. And so it's just like a person. If you set them up for success, you're going to get better outcomes. And so if you look at that and then look at the output with a skeptical eye and really not only go back and ask it questions and challenge some of the assumptions it made, some of the things it did, but also go in and make edits yourself. I think the way that we solve this AI slop problem is really drive the message home that you are responsible for the content that you're publishing. You are responsible for the information you're sending out. Just because you had AI do it, nobody's going to be mad at ChatGPT because you published something wrong. They're going to be mad at you. And so you have to take ownership.
Listen, I think that, listen, we can talk about this for hours, of course, but I think you hit the nail on the head. Is that at the end of the day, you cannot outsource intelligence blindly, right? You have to challenge it. I love the prompt questions. I use it for that same purpose all day, every day myself. But at the end of the day, you have to remember you have to protect your personal brand. AI is not going to do that for you. And so even whatever comes out, you still need to scrutinize and make it sure it looks and sounds like you, and it doesn't look and sound like somebody else. To make sure that the words that they're using are form fitting to what it is you have as a philosophy for your company, and don't take everything as the best version. By challenge that to the second, third, fourth layer deep. It's one thing that I learned deeply as a Lean Six Sigma black belt, having worked with some of the highest level senseis coming right from the manufacturing line of Toyota in Japan, is that you can work really hard on version number one. And we at times they come around and take version one and throw it to the floor and say, oh my God, I just worked on this for 100 hours. Is I know you can do better. And that's how you have to treat the AI tools that we have available too, is that rarely what is the first version is going to be the best version, and prompting on that. Again, we can talk about this for hours, but we don't have hours because I want to stick to my 15 minutes a day. You too can be. Where can we find you, James?
Yeah, so feel free to look over at Overlang, OV as in Victor, ERLANG.com. That's where you'll find our website. Also, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. It's James Lang, Lang. Pretty easy to find. And I do get a lot of messages. So if you send me a message, please be patient. I respond to every single one. But I love helping people figure out how to solve that one thing, that friction point that's holding them back. And it's not because I'm smarter. It might just be I'm better at Google than you. That's what tech support is nowadays. But also being able to approach it with a sense of the heart of a teacher, and then understanding what servant leadership really means. So, you talked about destroying things and getting rid of the first version. You have to be comfortable with creative destruction, especially right now. So feel free to reach out to us there. Would love to connect with you. And if you're a business owner, we have so many different clients that span different industries, and we love just collaborating and figuring out how do we be that partner that you need without taking a huge equity chunk or a huge bite out of your bottom line. Let's figure out how to be a force multiplier and work together to make business a little bit easier and more certain in an uncertain world.
I think that sounds brilliant. That is a great opportunity, very insightful to be in that space, because I think people need help, and help you just can get from just contacting your AI bot and look for the right answer. Human interaction and getting some level of pushback, right? Healthy pushback is really, really good. Give me a parting thought.
Yeah, I think it's important to look at progress as success. I
Hmm.
think too many people are so focused on this is how success should look, or this is how the outcome should be, and they box themselves into a source of real frustration when things don't line up exactly the way they want, whether that's organizationally or individually. So if you can focus instead on progress being the success instead of some outcome that you think is at the top of the mountain, you'll suddenly be happy and everything will be great. It doesn't work that way. You've just got to focus on making progress wherever you can.
I call that very simple: fail fast, but fail forward, right? Is that those people who, because I've never failed in my life, that means that you haven't tried hard enough. James, thank you very much for being on the show today. I really, really appreciate it. And again, to the audience, we gave some really key insight over your actions that you can start taking literally now. So do them, right? Put them on the calendar. Start, creating habits and behaviors around that. Because if you don't, you will have forgotten about this conversation in about 24 to 48 hours. Again, thank you for joining me today. Go to the Apple Store, download the Dutch Mentor mobile app. Lots of great information in there that helps you build the healthy habits and behaviors that you need to be the very best version of you while measuring your success along the way. James, thank you very much for being here. and I look forward to continue the conversation in the future someday. And much success in your new company.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.